Unsyndicated presents What the Puck with Sean Baligian.
Pleasant good evening to you. So glad you can join us. Our continuing series on what we're calling the proven path, talking about all the good things going on in MHSA hockey. We'll have another season coming up in just a few months. Now it's right around the corner, but part of the reason for doing this, and we can't thank our friends at the Michigan High School Coaches Association for making this possible, is we're letting people know, yeah, there is a proven path. And why it's a great decision to play high school hockey. And why do we use the term proven path? Because so many players have been able to use this as a springboard to a junior league, to D1, and certainly beyond. Our guest tonight, one of a couple different guests, really needs no introduction. He is a long time Michigan high school hockey supporter, broadcaster, reporter. I affectionately call him the voice of the UP. I know what a modest guy he is. I'm not sure how much he likes that, but he does a great job up in Copper Country. You've probably seen him on state champs with us the last few years, and it's a pleasure to be able to call this guy a friend of mine as well. Let's welcome him in, Jimmy Young, Jimmy the Greek Young. How are you, my friend?
Sean, I'm doing great. How about you, brother? And thanks again. Honored to be here on this show and watching the previous shows throughout the summer. And isn't it neat how you guys keep high school hockey going? And I try to do it 12 months a year. I'm trying to find a 13th month, but I don't think there's one out there.
No, but you know what, Jimmy, this is what it's all about. I think anybody involved in the game at this point in time, first and foremost, you need a love for the game. And right. I know you have that and then some. And secondly, you have to understand what we're trying to share with people. This is a pretty darn good level of hockey, Jimmy, and we're seeing guys move on more and more with every passing year.
Well, you look over the years, not even locally, and we know where the pecking order is with high school and hockey statewide, okay? We know how that goes. But statewide, the state of Michigan, with what we put out with high school hockey players, Division I and some going to the NHL, but it's such a age-long argument where the process starts. But I'm religious. I go back to the late coach John McGinnis, who coached Michigan Tech one time to win it as coach in NCAA hockey. I know him well. If we're good enough, we're going to find you. And high school hockey in Michigan now is kind of come back to the track. Stay in high school. We're going to find you. You're going to be recognized. But it's funny over the years how we've seen this game evolve.
Yeah, it really, Jimmy, I say this all the time. Forget about 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
Like in the last 10 years, we've watched so many programs just, skyrocket. Our mutual friend, Ricky Gadwin and
Ricky, I love him.
That was a wonderful story, 10, 11 years ago. And now all of a sudden, they're a threat year in, year out. And I always use the term, Jimmy, usual suspects. And Clarkston recently, Byron Center on the west side, teams that, all right, you do it once, people will go, oh, well, isn't that nice? You do it 2-3 times and you become a usual suspect.
And you go to Ricky Godwin, and I love him. I mean, I consider him he's great. I just love this guy. But I remember for so many years, they were right there. Yep. Right there. They couldn't break the code to Pandora's box. Then all of a sudden, what did they get, 2 or 3 out of 4 years or something together? Then they lost a heartbreaker. Then they moved to Division I. But it just goes to show, once you're there, you got to stay in the battle. But Ricky Godwin's done a great job. And Byron Center, who I'm not familiar with the coaching staff there, but the same thing. They just kind of stuck with it, keep grinding it out. And you mentioned one good comment, the usual suspects. It's the same with high school football, which I cover in a couple of weeks out starting. But we can probably, me and you off the air, we could sit down, and I'm guessing off the air again. This we're not going to do this publicly. We could probably write on a piece of paper of the 3 divisions of all the teams that are going to be there. We might miss 1 or 2, but we're going to be pretty darn close. But they're the programs that keep doing this and doing it the right way. And I hate to say recruiting. In high school hockey, you're not recruiting, but trust me, it's in the background. You got to go knock on a few doors. And it's not a sport where you just pick up a hockey stick at the end of October, September, and skate for 2 weeks. You got to do it 12 months because high school hockey, and I said it before, I might pick up other sports. It's become somewhat, I want to say, separated from the other high school sports with what you have to do to be at a highly competitive level. And so many schools statewide, especially up here, have done it.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Jimmy Young, of course, kindly joining us from Copper Country. You know what? I say this all the time, Jimmy, so nobody can accuse me of kissing your behind. One of my favorite areas of the state. It is absolutely beautiful up there. Great people up there as well. Jimmy gets to experience that each and every day. Hey, let's start in your own backyard. I think it's been so fun to watch when Danny had those great teams over in Hancock and they came down and won a championship. And, you know, you want to talk about salt of the earth guys, Corey Markham and Mike and Coach Finger, the whole staff with the Gremlins, and they've come oh so close. And don't forget, just down the road from you, you know, Dan and the great job that he's done at Calumet and how close they've come as well. You got it pretty good up there, my friend. You've seen some good hockey and certainly some good players come down the pike during your time.
Well, not to mention, I've come home many nights with cold toast. But yeah, I mean, I go back to Danny Rulo's State Championship Club. I mean, we can have 2 hours, but I'm down to 20 or 30 with your next guest. But yeah, Danny Rulo's club. That team was, again, I've said for years when you guys had me on 4 or 5 years ago in Plymouth, shortly after I lost my brother, which I'm still grateful for, but. That was one of those years with Houghton's club and Corey Markham where they made a magical run. You can kind of see where a team is going after the holidays. And Danny Rulo's group that year made such a run. They got to the finals and they beat Cranbrook. I remember Andy was on crutches from knee surgery. I don't think he made it out to shake hands, but that was one of the more dynamic games I've seen. But yeah, we're blessed up here. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Every year, one of those 3 teams is usually in the top 10 in the state. One's going to make a pretty good run to get downstate. It's just, yeah, and we're blessed. And it's almost like when you live somewhere, you go to that same spot all the time. It's almost like it's routine, but sometimes you don't realize and or appreciate it or appreciate what you have in your own backyard. It's pretty cool, I'll be honest with you.
You know, and it's interesting. We've seen so many darn good Calumet teams as well. But I'm with you. Listen, it's all about, and our mutual friend Coach Hunter said, don't forget Coach Crawford's Calumet teams. No, we can't. It's extra special when you can find a way, Jimmy, to win that championship. And I remember that Hancock team. I saw them earlier in the season. I said, look, I think this is the team to beat. And certainly they lived up to that. But Jimmy, one of the things that always amazes me, and I know I'm going to see you there each and every year, but you want to talk about rabid fan bases. Each and every year, there's a team, whether it be from Marquette. I know that's, you know, the other side from where you're at, but Calumet, Hancock, Houghton, the amount of fans that they bring just blows my mind each and every year, Jimmy.
Well, it's amazing. I want to backtrack a little bit, if I could, to the late Jim Crawford. Me and him developed a phenomenal friendship. When I first went to interview him, and most people who know Crow, he was this rough, gruff guy you couldn't get in. But once he was the biggest teddy bear in the bleeping world. 5 or 6 state championships in tiny Calumet? Are we serious?
Yeah.
And I remember me and him were sitting in a local, I'll say a tavern, with Glenn Patrick, the late Paulie Leto, who was assistant coach. And we'd always come up with these private/public school things. And I don't buy it. It's not going to change. It's not going away. And he looked at me. You know what? We beat them. We went down there and beat them. It's not going to change. If you want to beat the best, you got to beat the best. But still, that's one record that you think of how hard it was for him to do that against those private schools. And he set the standard. I still think to this day, for all the public schools where you can physically and mentally do this, to this day, I think that standard's out there. And the fan bases, and I'm like in Trenton. You go to Trenton with all the family ties to Calumet, Houghton, and Hancock. It's phenomenal. We're walking through the hallways there. It's like I'm thinking, am I back home or something? But
right.
And even when you get to Plymouth, and Plymouth is a whole different world. The USA Arena is just it's like you're. But yeah, I mean it's pretty cool what we have up here, and not only here, but it's kind of gravitating statewide. And there's a reason we have 14 or 15 teams from downstate. And 2 or I think this coming season, 3 teams from Wisconsin that are coming up here. Not just 3 teams from Wisconsin, 3 heavyweights from Wisconsin coming up here.
Our buddy Mike Iviso wishes he could be with us.
Oh, I love Mike.
He just jumped in the chat, said, "See you soon, Jimmy. We're all getting together. As a matter of fact, meeting in Milwaukee. Yeah, a week from today." Jimmy was kind enough to hook us up with some Brewer tickets. So Jimmy, Mike, and yours truly, we're all going to hang out next Wednesday night. I'm sure a few sodas will be had, and sodas, of course. And then we'll watch the Brewers game the next day. Jimmy Young, I affectionately call him the voice of the Upper Peninsula, kindly joining us. I'll always appreciate your comments. Eric says hello. Coach Hunter asked a pretty good question. We're seeing so many schools all over the state join. Make a co-op. We're going to put this school district together, that school district together, whatever the case may be. And when Coach Hunter asked that question, the first thing that popped in my mind is, boy, you could make a pretty good team up there if you decided to put a couple of those teams together. Hancock and Houghton, put them together, Calumet, whatever the case may be. I don't think that's ever going to happen. There are some great communities up there and a lot of pride in those communities. I know we're going to talk to one of those communities in just a few minutes in Negaunee, but certainly, Jimmy, when you look at Calumet, when you look at Houghton, when you look at Hancock, the amount of talent that they put out there each and every year, it kind of makes me think I don't think they're going to be joining forces anytime soon.
Well, I appreciate the comments there from Coach Hunter, but we had the same kind of conversation here with high school football a handful of years ago. Lakeland and Hubble, perennial power under Coach Warner, 2 or 3 state championships. They've been reduced to 8-man football. And by the way, last year they made the 8-man Final Four. They were stopped because they didn't want to give up that 11 play. They went to 8-man because they had to, not because they wanted to just get in the playoffs. There's a lot of talk. Well, some other local schools reached out. Because it's a football factory. Lakeland and Hubble is a football bleeping factory. And we don't want to give up the yellow helmet. But for the schools like Houghton, Hancock, and Calumet to do that in hockey, why would you do that when pretty much every year we are legitimate state champs contenders? I get the co-op thing in hockey areas where I hate to say the word talent level isn't that high, top to bottom. And it works. Talent level works for co-ops for certain situations. But up here, you're born with hockey skates. That's just the nature of it. And again, when you have 3 teams every year this good, it'll never happen up here. And I can see where the conversation, and especially statewide, how this has happened. And again, we've talked over the years, when you look at high school hockey, where the problem with co-op is, we're losing so many teams in high school hockey overall. Then I think, like I had Dan Giacchino on my show a couple of times, and I had Cody on from MHSA a few weeks ago. That the high school hockey has lost, I think, 15 or 20 teams in the last 15 years. So now that's shrinking. And I actually think we're looking at within a couple of years, probably before I'm done, which I don't know how much longer that's going to be. It's not. It's going to be shorter than longer. Put it that way. But I think eventually we're looking at 2 divisions in Plymouth with 8 teams and out with 16 teams going down there. I think it's coming like Minnesota does. But the co-op thing is great. If you have to do it, don't do it. And if you did that up here, Sean, I hate to say it, you would have anarchy because you have so many good hockey players that would not be able to play high school hockey. Not only so many good hockey players, but good hockey players who can make their teams good to really compete for a state title. Like some other sports, you don't have that. You're making a good playoff run and whatnot, but in football and basketball, you know what you're going to do and how far you're going to do at the end of the day. In hockey up here, I get it, but not going to happen here. Now, some other schools have had to do it in the UP, but I don't see it happening with those. I mean, I get the conversation, but areas in the state have to do it, as you've seen down your way.
Yep. No doubt. Jimmy Young kindly joining us. One thing, and I want to ask you some, players that you've seen that have moved on that really have stuck out in your mind, because as I mentioned, you've seen a plethora of quality hockey players up in your region. But I think Dan and I became friends many years ago because I'm very passionate about this. You've heard me rant on this a few times.
Yeah.
I promise I'm not going to rant right now, but I am going to say I've always had a problem with the way things are configured up north. And what I mean by that is this. You could have a year where Calumet is absolutely loaded.
There we go. I love it. Love it.
And Houghton is absolutely loaded. And so is Calumet. And then you might have, if they're in the same class or division, if it were, an Escanaba or a Negaunee gets on fire. They keep everybody and they get on fire. And what you're talking about, Jimmy, okay, is you could have 2 or 3 of the best teams in one division.
Right.
And 2 out of 3 of them are done the first weekend of the season. I have a problem with that. And I'm going to continue to bang the drum on that and bang the table. I'm not going to yell and rant there. See, I'm calming down. I'm bringing it down right now. But I've always had a problem with that because I think if you ask the coaches, and Dan flat out said to me after they won the title in 2016, he said right in the press conference, he said, "Tell me where you want me to go. I will drive wherever you want me to play. But to put 2 or 3 of the best teams in the state in the same bracket, Jimmy, we got to do something about that."
Well, you ranted about it, Sean, and I'll go another step further. I yelled about it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's sad. And now, fortunately and or unfortunately, a lot of areas downstate have the same problem in the Cranbrook bracket, I think, where you were. But, see them. Yeah. And I've said for years, MHSAA, who I love them to death, high school football players have it figured out. You still go by region, but you seed everyone by region. For instance, 5-6 years ago, I was doing a Calumet high school football playoff game in McBain and somewhere other. I don't know. It was halfway between here and Chicago, and Detroit was somewhere in between. Come back. By the time I got home, I had to turn around and go back the next day. But at least you're doing a regional seeding.
Exactly.
And I know the money and the cost, but high school hockey, again, I'll keep saying it, is a little bit different. And yeah, it's sad how that works. And I know that now they're seeding in the regionals, but you still, last year, or 2 years ago, Houghton, Hancock, and Calumet, there was very little to separate them. You still had to, you go through a gauntlet, but I mean, it's a never-ending, it's a never-ending debate. But, and I know they're trying to figure out how to do this. And I don't think nobody's going to care to travel. If you got to travel for your first couple of playoff games, go ahead and do it. Yeah. Make it right when you get to Plymouth. This is all about the kids. Yep. Get the best people down there. Because I'm not going to say any names. How many times have we been into Plymouth and we've seen the semifinals last year? the Final Four wasn't that eventful. There weren't that many close games. Let's be honest. I mean, I put it right out there. And that's a byproduct of how the regionals are set up. You got 2 or 3 heavyweights, not only here and all, but a lot of regionals downstate in all divisions where you got some powerhouses playing early on. And some of the best teams aren't even getting out of their own backyard. Like up here, you got these 3 schools. You're traveling what? A collective, we got 1 mile from Holton, 3 miles from Hancock. You're traveling a collective 14 miles to play your regional tournament. Only one of these teams are getting out here. Downstate, the same thing. But But again, I'll go back to the late Jim Crawford. If you want to win it, you got to beat everyone. But
Yep.
I think that's the end game for all this. But I don't think teams would mind traveling if they had to play in the high school hockey tournament. Because let's face it, Sean. How many of these teams travel all year? You got the Trenton showcase. You got the 2 Traverse City showcases. You've got the showcase. What's the showcase that they have with Heartland and all those teams? It's a big tournament that Rick Godwin.
Thanksgiving weekend. Yeah.
Yes,
And
you got
KLA MIHL.
Yeah. You got so many teams that travel anyway. You've got 14 or 15 teams that travel up here all year. You've got Holton this year going down to Grand Rapids to play early in the season. You've got Calumet and Cranbrook, who it's not doing anymore due to home and home with the regular season series. It wouldn't be that big of a deal, but I can see where a lot of logistics and financial things come into this as well. But I'm all about having the best people there when the money's on the line. I'm a money guy. I love gambling. Is it going to happen or not in our lifetime? Who knows, man?
Yep. As Mike said, it's fixable. Teams will do it. Kids can go to class online.
Absolutely.
State's got to get it done. Let's see them all. Jimmy Young kindly joining us. We're going to be joined again, talk some minors hockey in just a couple minutes, but wanted to catch up with my buddy Jim Young. Jim, one of the reasons why we're doing this, and I'll let you speak to this, is we're talking about the proven path. Yes, we're talking about some of the great hockey all over the state, and we're talking about this community and that community, and everybody's moving somebody on, right? Or having the opportunity to move on. Who are some of the guys that have stuck out to you? Because, I mean, just the last couple of years, the amount of talent that we've seen come out of Calumet and go on to the OHL or the OJ or the NUL or the USHL and beyond. Who are some of the guys that have stuck out to you the last few years, Jimmy, that you've had to see up close and personal?
Well, I'm going to go back a little bit. Bob Rangus, Calumet Copper Kings, Hockey Player of the Year. I gave him the nickname the Vulture. I mean, he was this big, but he was phenomenal. Ben Storm, I believe, who played for Calumet. And I told everyone, he was in the same team with Ben Johnson. As you watch this kid, he's going to be good. He had a heavy, wicked slap shot. And what did he end up doing? Going to St. Cloud and I think he played a couple years in the NHL with Denver, Colorado. Ben Johnson, obviously, that kind of went south, as we all know. Jeff Finger from Holton was phenomenal. I mean, Jeffrey's a great friend. I mean, he was a thumper. He went to play, he left school, then he came back back to the proven path. His niche was in Holton. Corey Markham was a phenomenal high school hockey player. I mean, skill. He played a 200-foot game. Pete Rulo, the current Hancock coach, his first hockey that's when Rick Miller won his state title. This little miniature guy was out there. And here's another guy that came out after the holidays and we're kind of, who is this? I mean, he was so bleeping talented, quick. A phrase I love to use, hockey IQ.
Yeah.
Anyone can skate like to win. You got to know where to go with the win, but he knew where the play was going to be before the play actually happened. Connor Hannon, the same cut from the same cloth. He was just his freshman year. He came onto the scene, and the same thing. I mean, he could have hit behind a pencil, Sean. He still would have brought a saddle out there. But man, he was fun to watch. 4 years, 4 years at Holton High School. Now playing professional hockey overseas. The goaltending we've had up here over the years, it was just phenomenal. I don't know with the goaltenders. The coaching we had up over the years, Jim Crawford, Dan Rulo, the late Rick and Don Miller.
Yeah.
I remember the late Rick and Don Miller, and at the time, Coach Postak from Calumet. They all wanted to go to set, and this is back in the tier 1 and tier 2. Then they broke it up into divisions. All those 3 schools at one point were thinking about going to division 1, 2, and 3 because they're so talented. We could get 3 teams downstate. But you do that now, we're going in. I hate to use the 2 words, school boards.
Right.
But I mean, it was something that was on the table. It was kind of swept underneath, but. And again, you were at the Calumet Coliseum. You walk around that hallway. You go to the D Stadium, the Hall of Fame, which is phenomenal. But the history, and I keep remembering one thing you told me, Sean, when you walked into the Calumet Coliseum, when you guys had me do the game with you, it smells like hockey.
It did.
Same thing at the D. Same thing at the Lakeview Arena. It doesn't. It's a smell. It's like the old Olympia. I don't want to say to you smell it. You smell popcorn. You almost smell urine. I mean, it's out there, but it's sleeping hockey, man.
Look who checked in. His ears must have been burning. He must have known we were talking him up. Ricky Gadwa, the head coach at
Ricky.
Heartland. Jimmy wears the Heartland hat, so. Jimmy's going to play it straight down the middle of the fairway. You know that, Ricky. No doubt about it. Hey, Jimmy, tell people I know you're with 93.5. I get a chance to come on with you, but for people that haven't checked it out, you're always doing games in the UP. Certainly tell everybody how they can listen, where they can listen. I know I speak for a ton of people down here. We always enjoy hearing you let us know what's going on with the action each and every week in high school hockey.
Well, high school hockey, my broadcast is going to start, I think, the week before Thanksgiving. Go on the mix93.com or WMPL920am.com. And you're asking me a tough question, Sean. Terrible websites. But www.pasty.net, my schedule is out. It will be out there. I just finished my high school schedule, football broadcast schedule, which is kind of my warm-up for hockey. But yeah, and Ricky, I got your Heartland hat. It was in your Heartland hat was in County State or American Ballpark in Milwaukee last week, and it's it got heat stroke as well. But it might make the trip next Wednesday when I meet Sean and Mike. And Sean or Mike, your problems are behind you after tonight, okay? But Rick, I love you, and all these guys. I mean, it's in hockey. It's such a unique family, Sean. It really is from the professional level down where we're at right here with what we do.
Certainly glad you and I have been able to become friends over the years. I know I'm going to be up there in October with Wayne State football. I always love getting up to Houghton, and have a feeling we're going to be up there in December, and we're probably going to see you in Grand Rapids as well. I know the Gremlins are heading that way, as you talked about. Jimmy, it is always a pleasure to chat with you, my friend. Keep doing what you do. You have been one of the loudest and best supporters of this product for a long time, and I certainly wanted to catch up with you, my friend.
Well, Sean, I want to thank you again. I've said this 100 times, what you and your group have done for high school hockey. Again, you put it on the map. I don't think, and again, I don't know for sure, because I'm a dinosaur with this stuff. I don't think high school football and basketball do what you guys do for high school hockey year round. During the season, maybe year round. I mean, if it's out there, someone tell me. I'll pump it up. But it's just sad. And then it's amazing what you guys do. In the high school hockey community, I've said 100 times, when I received that award a couple years ago, and as you know, and most people know, I was going through a really rough stretch. That high school hockey, friend of high school hockey, I'm getting texts from Corey Markham and Chris Gibbons. When I got that award from my peers, to this day, I still, when I go down, look at the TV or whatever, I always look at that plaque before I go to bed. It's right next to the picture of my late brother and the late Bob Urkula. To get that, and people get awards, okay? But to get that from people who recognize what you do, that's pretty cool. And I can't thank that whole hockey and coaching community. I've said that publicly 100 times, but I think up here I think on this side it'll get out there pretty good. And I can't thank them enough. It's so much appreciated.
Well, Jimmy, you're a legend, no doubt about that. Thank you again, and I'm looking forward to having a few sodas and maybe some barbecue in Milwaukee next week, my friend.
Don't forget about the farmers market downtown if we get there.
You got
Okay.
it. We appreciate you, bud. All right, Jimmy Young, kindly joining us. Long time. I call him the voice of the UP. I think he blushes when I say that, but he's done so much for hockey in the UP and beyond, and it's a pleasure to have him on the show. Well, part of the reason that we do this each and every week is we want to talk about the programs all across the state. Doesn't matter where you're at. You have a hockey program, we want to tell your story. We want to talk about what you're doing, and we want to talk about some of the positives certainly coming out of your program. Again, what we're calling this is the proven path. Playing high school hockey doesn't mean your hockey career is over by a long shot. Guys are moving on each and every day to whatever league it may be. Going to the OJ, to the NAL, to the USHL, anywhere. We like to see guys move on, and it's a testament to some of the great coaching that you're seeing at this level and certainly the great players that are making a choice to stay here. Today, it is the minors version of the proven path. Really, really happy to be joined by a couple guys representing a cool community. Let's welcome in the head coach of the minors, Coach Hopper, and one of the minors from this past year, a guy that had over a point per game and is looking to prove that path himself. Let's welcome in Riley Williams as well. Guys, really appreciate you joining us here tonight on the Proven Path. And I guess we could say it's the Negaunee edition. First, Coach Hopper, let's start with you. Thanks so much for joining us. And this is one of those things you and I were talking about on the phone yesterday. Listen, hockey, the one thing we all have in common is a passion for this game. And certainly you're in a community that has a passion for this game.
Definitely. We have a great community that stands behind us, and for all the sports, for high school, for Negaunee, and the couple co-ops that we do have with Westwood and Ishpeming also. So
the UP is such a special place. And again, getting to know you a little bit when we talked on the phone yesterday, Jimmy just made the crack. I don't know if you were on with us yet. He said, I think a lot of the guys are born with skates. That's just the way it is. And I'm sure that's the case in your community as well.
Well, it definitely is. We we try and have a culture now that hockey is number one in Negaunee, and hopefully moving forward, we can keep that rolling.
It's interesting, and Riley, will welcome Riley Williams into the show. And again, this is a guy that had over a point a game last year, 14 goals, 23 assists. Riley, first of all, congratulations on your season. And, I say this all the time. I know quality players like you have options. You could go play here. You could go play there. I respect you and give you a tip of the cap for wanting to stay and represent your community and represent your high school. Can you talk about that decision? Because more often than not, I can't tell you how many times I hear from somebody that says, man, I wish I stayed the whole time. I played elsewhere my sophomore year or junior year. You were a minor. Can you tell us about that decision looking back now?
Yeah, well, first thanks for having me on. I really appreciate this opportunity. But I started out in the Iron Range hockey program in Negaunee, and just from squirts, peewees, bantams, played house league because that's all we had at the time. And once I got to high school, it was my only option for me, and nowhere else was. It was Negaunee High School. That's always what I wanted to play growing up. It's like even at squirts, you go to minors games and watch them play, and you just want to be in that jersey one day. And once I got to my freshman year, and thankfully Coach Hopper and Revord put me on the roster, and it was the best 4 years of my life, and I would have never wanted to play hockey anywhere else but in Negaunee.
I love hearing that because, and Coach, we'll get to you in just a second. I'd love to get your take on that. But it's interesting because now you're the grizzled veteran looking back. And as I mentioned, I can't tell you how many kids have come up to me the last few years and said, man, I wish I did this my sophomore year or junior year, because they only got to enjoy the ride for 1 year. You're a guy right now, Riley, for people out there that don't know, is your path isn't done yet. There are some opportunities for you, and we're all rooting like mad for you. And if there's anything this community can do for you, that's what this community is about, this high school hockey community. We'll help out in any way we can. But tell us about where your path may take you from here.
Well, next year I'll be playing for the Wisconsin Rapids River Kings of the USPHL. Signed with them in around 1st of March. I went down there after I signed. It was a great place. Went and watched the playoff game. Huge atmosphere, big crowds in the stands. Team's great. Team's history's great. Coaching's great. Thank you, Coach Peckman. I know he's probably watching, hopefully, for giving me the opportunity to come play there next year. And I'm really excited to be a River King.
My broadcast partner is joining us right now, Mike Ivesel, and he just said, I love the passion to play for his high school. And Coach, I saw you get a little smirk on your face when Riley was talking about that was always his goal. That's what he wants. You want those hockey players. You want those guys that say, hey, listen, this has been up in my brain since I was 9 years old. I want to play for Coach Hopper. I want to wear that Miners jersey.
Yeah, definitely. He showed passion right from the start with his freshman year, even at tryouts. He was there, committed, and gave everything he got. And we recognized that part of it, and that was the big reason why Riley was playing high school hockey his freshman year.
Once again, Coach Hopper, Riley Williams, representing Negaunee here tonight. Negaunee Miners hockey and in the proven path. Again, can't thank the Michigan High School Hockey Coaches Association enough for making this happen. Riley, what's it like playing up there? Because I told Coach yesterday, if you don't know this, okay, downstate, we're all kind of infatuated with what's going on up in the UP. I think for the reasons that we talked about, the whole idea of, born with skates, and it's so big, and some of the venerable buildings up there. What an experience for you to play in your hometown, to go over to Marquette, to go over to Houghton, to go over to Hancock, Calumet, whatever the case may be. What was that experience like?
I mean, playing in every rink in the UP is the best, whether you're playing in Manistee or you're playing Jeffers in the SDC at Michigan Tech. Every rink is awesome. Every rink is usually pretty cold. Every rink has packed stands every time you go. Doesn't matter if you're playing Houghton, Escanaba, Kingsford. Every game is great. Every game is just so much fun, and it's just great.
Yeah. Coach, let's talk a little bit about this program. I say it all the time. I love how active you guys are on social media, whether it be tweets, whether it be, letting people know. I mean, that's the name of the game today. That's what people are looking at. But most importantly, I know from talking to you and talking to the assistant coach as well, you guys are in the process of building something, and this, you're here now, but each year it seems you're going like this. Tell us about that process of building this minor program.
Yeah, well, our assistant coach, Mark, does an excellent job on Twitter and on Facebook with all the posts that he does to promote our program and also all the other programs for high school hockey. With our program in general, we're taking a step every year to go in the right direction. We want to be up there with the, Marquette, Houghton, Hancock, Calumet programs to be able to compete, at a high level every year. So with our program, we're starting slow and making our way here. So it's been, this will be our 7th year now with this program and just building it back to the way it was back in the late 90s, early 2000s when they had those Final Four teams.
Coach, I don't know if you caught it earlier. We were talking about Coach Gadwin, Heartland. I always kind of use him as an example. I use the term the usual suspects on the state champ show a lot. And I always think of Heartland because they were the cute story 10, 11 years ago. Oh, wow, isn't that cool? They made it all the way to the finals, and they just felt just this short, like they weren't going to be back. Well, here's the thing. They came back, and then they came back again, and then they won again. to me, I love those stories. And I think we're seeing more and more stories like that all over the state. You know, what Clarkston's done, what Byron Center has done. And I guess my point is, yeah, why not the minors as well? I mean, you've got passion, you've got a great fan base there, and yeah, why not the minors, huh?
Yeah, definitely. And it all starts with our association with Iron Range Hockey also. So we're, with that program also, it's getting up there to a point where we're competitive at the state level each year. So it's, you start at the bottom and work your way up to the top, and it feeds into our high school program.
Isn't that great? Once again, Coach Hopper, Riley Williams, kindly joining us here on the Proven Path, brought to you by our friends from the Michigan High School Hockey Coaches Association. Riley, what would you tell a young player? Because I think the challenges that you guys have to face, it doesn't matter if you're a young man in Negaunee. It doesn't matter if you're a young man here where I'm at in Northville, west side of the state, north, doesn't matter. There are options for you guys. You could go here. You could go there. You could go play for this AAA team. You could go do, so many different choices. What would you tell a young man right now who's kind of in that same position that you were at, that, all right, do I go play for my high school team? Do I go chase it? What would you tell that young person as to why they should stick with their high school hockey team?
I mean, it's just the brotherhood you build with playing with those guys. You go to school with them every day. You see them in the halls. You go to class with them. You get rides with them to the rink. You're in school at 7 a.m. and you're left the rink at 7. You're with them 12 hours a day. I feel like there's just more of a brotherhood in high school hockey than there is in anything else. Just every day you're with them and you're on the buses with them instead of driving to tournaments and stuff. You're on the buses going to games, whether it's 15 minutes to Marquette or an hour and a half to Calumet. It's just fun every single time.
Isn't that awesome, Coach? It's got to warm your heart to hear a guy like this. And, a lot of the kids in the community are going to look up to him and as his career progresses. And we hope it progresses a long, long way, Riley. I hope a lot of kids take to heart what he just said, because, Coach, you could tell he just spoke from the heart.
Definitely. And he rubs off on the younger generation now. He's a mentor for our Iron Range program and also for the high school kids coming up. This summer he's been doing all of our dryland trainings and everything. He took it upon himself to basically run it. It's hands off for me, and he's been doing an excellent job.
Isn't that great? Coach, tell us a little bit about your background. I know from talking to you a bit on the phone yesterday, as it were, lifelong Youper, so to speak. But tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up in this position as the minors head coach.
Well, for the most part, I grew up in Marquette playing in their organization. And then after I was done there, I coached for 2 years out of high school in their midget program. And then after that, I started having kids. And once my son was old enough to start playing, that's when I jumped into coaching again. And I got up to his freshman year of high school, and then the job came open at Negaunee, and I figured I had the time and the energy to try and build this program back up to where it once was. So that's kind of the whole process for me so far.
We're getting close to that time where people like me can scour each schedule. I love to do it. I love to see, hopefully, when I'm heading up your way, hopefully you're home one day. I'd love to go see you guys play, or, if you were ever anywhere in the close vicinity, I like to do that. But can you tell us a little bit about your upcoming schedule and what it looks like, and, what has you excited, not only about the schedule, but about the minors team for this 24-25 season?
Well, with our schedule, I believe we're in one of the toughest conferences in the whole state when we have to go and play, Hancock, Calumet, Marquette, Escanaba, Kingsford, all those teams there. It's a tough game every time you go play them. This year, we're taking a trip down to Grand Rapids. I believe it's the end of July, or not July, January, for one of their showcases down there. But overall, it's our schedule this year is a pretty favorable one. I hope we a lot of confidence, and that we'll have a better season than we did last year.
How many returners do you guys have coming back? Is there anybody that you're really excited about that's ready to make their minor debut?
We have quite a few kids, younger kids that are coming up. We're going to be a young team next year. We only have, I think, 2 returning seniors and 4 juniors coming back. So it will be young, but I expect good things out of them. They've been working hard this summer, and we'll see how that work pays off for them come October and November.
I've got some of the state champs crew in the chat. So Negaunee's going to be in Grand Rapids in late January. Boys, let's get in the truck. We're going to drive over to Grand Rapids. Let's check out some of those games. Once again, Coach Hopper, Riley Williams. Riley, what is so cool about this process, in doing this, and I don't know if you've caught any of these shows, the guys that keep giving back because they know the benefits of high school hockey. And even if they're, have to report back to college or have to, report to a junior team or whatever, it's like you make the call and they're here. So I can't thank you enough for that. But with that being said, what does your schedule look like? How much summer do you have left before you have to report? I mean, it's amazing. So many of these guys are going to be in the process of reporting to some of their new teams and everything. Tell us about that process for you.
Well, I'll be moving into my place here in Wisconsin Rapids probably around the 24th of August, and then our training camp starts on the 31st. So I got a few more weeks left to enjoy my summer, get some golf in, get some skating in, get some more work in the gym in, and just enjoy a couple more weeks here in the UP before I got to go to Wisconsin.
Oh, isn't that awesome? We're rooting for you, man. I say it all the time. Anybody that can cast a positive light on what I think is a fantastic brand of hockey that deserves more applause and more of a light. Anybody that can do that, and you're one of those guys doing it, taking your career to the next level and hopefully beyond. I wish you nothing but the best, Riley. I think it's a fantastic story, and certainly will be following your career.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No, my pleasure. And Coach, same with you. You know what? Love to follow what you guys are doing. Really look forward to seeing you in person and seeing what you guys are made of for this season. Hey, you know what? You mentioned it. Give total props. Your Twitter game is one of the best out there. I mean, he's always active putting stuff out there. Yeah. So give Mark some credit for that. But Coach, I know I told you this yesterday. I'll tell you this today. Best of luck. If we can ever help spread the word about anything you guys are involved with or some updates on Riley or anybody else, you know how to get a hold of us at State Champs or certainly get a hold of me as well.
Yeah, thanks, Sean, for everything. We appreciate everything you guys are doing for high school hockey, and keep up the good work. We really enjoy it.
No, appreciate you guys. Isn't it funny? My boys all popped in. Both Coach Hunter and Mike said, I'm in. And then Mike said, hope to see you guys soon. We definitely will. So, Coach, thank you. And Riley, thank you as well. Most importantly, thank you guys for joining us. As I said, this is what is so cool about this game. You get to talk to guys from different communities and guys going different places. Why are we doing it? To put the light on a fantastic brand of hockey and really root these kids on that have an opportunity to go and play in these various leagues. So I can't thank Jimmy Young enough, Coach Hopper enough, Riley Williams enough. We're going to be rooting them on. And like I said, if you haven't checked out the work that Negaunee does, check out their Twitter work. They've got some great footage on there and letting people know what's going on statistically as well. And that is half the battle. I want to thank Todd back behind the scenes as always for doing what he does. Most importantly, thank you for joining us. The season is going to be here pretty soon. Not soon enough for some of us that really need hockey, but it's going to be here soon enough. In the meantime, hopefully you're enjoying this. We're going to do this all the way up to the start of the 24-25 season. So for everybody involved, my name is Sean Belegian saying until next time, thanks for joining us.
What the Puck, featuring Sean Belegian. Produced by Todd Losey and Blake Matrezek. Executive produced by Sean Belegian and Todd Losey. Theme song and incidental music by Elliot Middleton. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe to What the Puck on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Got something to say to Sean? Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.